Hello everyone from Alpha News Studio in Los Angeles. I'm Arthur Sahakian, and my guest today is ANCA Western Region Board member, ANCA Nevada co-chair, Ms. Lenna Hovanessian. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. So today I'm going to speak in English as well. Last time we talked in Armenian. Only 4 days left before America is going to decide who's our president, who's going to make decisions on behalf of America, and also decide what happens in the world in general. Because, you know, America is the most powerful country on earth. We cannot argue that. And as far as I know, ANCA hasn't endorsed any candidates, presidential candidates. I wanted to ask you, did you support that decision personally?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I do want to start out by saying that we have endorsed a lot of candidates besides the presidential candidates, and that there are plenty of congressional candidates that we have really vetted out for the Armenian-American voters. And it's really important for you to look on our website and to be able to go and look in your district and to look at your candidates and see who we've endorsed, because we've really vetted them out. And so that's been a very intricate process, and we're very proud of that. However, as you said, Arthur, the presidential candidates we have not endorsed. And while I think it's always important to get in the game of endorsing, it is not because we couldn't decide. It's because that both have provided, unfortunately, not a very positive record for the Armenian-American community to vote on. And I think it's been since 2020, since the war on Artsakh, when President Trump was in office at the time, prior to the election. There was a couple months where he could have intervened when Artsakh was being attacked by Azerbaijan. And there was really a more isolationist policy in the United States towards foreign policy, and specifically the impact was towards Armenia, that Artsakh, that there was no support or no stopping of Azeri aggression towards Artsakh. Also, with the Biden administration, Biden-Harris administration, after that, as we all know, there was the blockade of the Lachin corridor, and there was a lot of engagement as far as trying to resolve the situation, a lot of interactions by many members of the community to try to impact the decision to not to intervene beyond just negotiations, including conversations with the State Department and other entities that we've all had. And unfortunately, we all know the very important, statements that were made in the State Department hearing, the Senate hearing, where, there would be no tolerance for Azeri aggression, ethnic cleansing, or military aggression against Artsakh at the time. And then 5 days later, yes, that is exactly what happened on the watch of the Biden administration. We will give credit where it's due. President Biden officially recognized the Armenian genocide, which was really a watershed moment for the Armenian community. But by the same token, just as Trump armed the Azerbaijani military with military aid, and so did the Biden administration. Both administrations have armed Azerbaijan with $100 to $120 million in military aid every year. And so it's really important for the Armenian-American community to understand that, we don't just endorse candidates based upon parties or other things, but because of a real track record and our expectations that, a small democracy, first Christian nation, really a country that doesn't have the resources of its neighbors like Turkey and Azerbaijan, is very vulnerable. And now that Armenia has turned very strongly and pivoted to the West, the expectation from the United States to support that fledgling democracy is really critical.
I have a different opinion about the genocide, recognition of the genocide, but that's a different topic. Maybe we can talk about that another time. When it comes to both candidates, they tried to approach Armenian-American community lately, during this 2 weeks or a month, let's say, during this last month. And I would like you to comment on this. Did you like that approach? Like Harris campaign was talking about right to return of Artsakh people, and Trump named Artsakh, which I never heard about. Artsakh name from Democrats, by the way, who run the country today. Plus, they mentioned ethnic cleansing. So, what's your take on this? If we compare those
Absolutely,
messages.
yes. I mean, starting with this is very critical. We are at in a very heated campaign, a very close presidential campaign, perhaps the closest ever. And these statements, while made intentionally to engage Armenian-American voters, this is part of the democratic process. We, as Armenian Americans, want to be courted and engaged in the campaign process, in the election process. And for those candidates, the presidential candidates, to engage our community by offering us things that are supportive towards Artsakh and Armenia's defense and sovereignty and right to return, as said by the Harris campaign, and also even Trump critiquing the Biden and Harris administration for not protecting Christians who were persecuted in Artsakh, and mentioning Artsakh and the word ethnic cleansing within his statement. Harris mentioning the right to return, which is one of the main big issues
To interrupt you.
Yes.
Have you ever heard from Biden administration ethnic cleansing or Artsakh words? Ever? Like
I have
for
not heard.
last 5 years or 10 years or 30 years.
Right.
They always mention Nagorno-Karabakh. No one talks about ethnic cleansing.
Right. I think, the words that were uttered is that they would not tolerate ethnic cleansing. And then that's exactly what happened right after that, that Senate hearing.
But they didn't recognize.
And it was not later, stated that was ethnic cleansing. But I think words are, I won't say that words are cheap. Words do matter in political campaigns because it means that now we're part of the national dialogue.
Never can back up from his words. Never, right? He cannot tell like tomorrow's, I didn't mean like ethnic cleansing. I meant something else. It's not possible, right? Do you agree?
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't agree with, words and not being able to. What's most important besides the words is the actions to back it up. And campaign promises are, of course, notoriously not to be believed. But I think as a minority group that has a significant voting presence in swing states, the fact that realization is made on the national election campaign trail is very important to our community. And that's why the engagement of our community to vote is really, really critical, especially during this election. And so I think the statements are great, but what's more important is action and what actions can be taken. We have 4 days left, and there have been opportunities on both sides to take actions.
How?
For example,
let's say Harris is the vice president. She's in the office right now. She can take some steps. For example, COP29, right? For example. Or legislative initiatives. I know you are working towards like a few agendas in Congress. I would like you to talk about that too. But someone who has a power, real power, and someone who is running to get to the office, they are not even, right? Like how can you expect the same thing from real power and someone who doesn't have that power?
Right. As you said, Vice President Harris is in office, and one of the very impactful steps she could take, which would really win the hearts and minds of Armenian-American voters, would if she would put some type of a condition on the release of the Armenian Artsakh leaders who are being held hostage in Baku prisons right now and being tortured. This is an opportunity for Vice President Harris to leverage the power of COP29 to be able to, condition the participation of the United States and support in COP29 by saying that they must release the Artsakh leaders and all the other POWs as a condition of that participation. Absolutely, that would be one very big example of actual concrete steps that can be taken to show good faith. On the other side, President Trump, while he's not currently in office, he was, and he does have significant influence over his party. And he could easily, call upon Speaker of the House Johnson and initiate some type of vote on some of the legislations we have, such as 7288, House Resolution 7288, which is basically stops the waiver of military aid to Azerbaijan. And so there's also power on his side to be able to have some type of influence, as well as J.D. Vance, who is a current, is senator. He could also co-sponsor some of our Senate resolutions, including Senate Resolution 540, which would, enact and which would start an investigation into Azerbaijan's war crimes and human rights abuses. So there are opportunities and have been opportunities on both sides to take decisive action. And I think this is where the Armenian-American community can really voice its, leverage its vote, its power, and to say that we need actionable steps in order to win our votes.
That's right.
And I think now that the discourse and the dialogue is at the level of where they understand the issues that matter to our community, the right to return, the release of Artsakh leaders and POWs and hostages, what are, aid to Armenia, security for Armenia. Those are very important issues, and now they're aware of it. So I would say that that is definitely progress.
That's correct. But again, in order not to be confused for our people watching us, so Kamala Harris is in the office. She can solve the problems in 10 minutes in one call. Trump has power, of course. You said that Johnson, right? Speaker of the House can do something. Senator J.D. Vance can do something. But don't not forget that now Congress is in vacation, right? They are going to be back, I think, in November or late November.
Right.
So, yeah, of course, we need to push these agendas, but still, people have to be aware of that. Anyways, my next question is, do you work with both campaigns? Not you personally, but the ANC. Are they in touch with both campaigns, talking about the issues, how they can make announcements, or how can they help Armenian-American community? What are the most important? Do you have any connections?
Yes, absolutely.
And are you in talks with them now?
Yes, I would say that we are engaged. Both campaigns have engaged with us, with me personally, as well as with the ANCA, nationally. And I think being from a swing state, that's a really critical.
You as representing Nevada.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And because of that particular, leverage of the Armenian-American vote. And so let me explain with, the 6 and possibly 7, but really 6 key swing states can really and will probably really make or break this presidential election. That's why it is so important for the Armenian-American community to vote, especially in these states. And the states that really stand out for the Armenian-American community are, of course, Michigan, also Nevada, where I'm from, and also Pennsylvania, and also there's a few others, Arizona, North Carolina, and there's one more.
Michigan, Wisconsin.
Yes. So what's really become interesting in Nevada is that, for example, this is in Georgia, of course. So in the last presidential election, the vote, Biden won Nevada by 33,000 votes. The Nevada Armenian-American community is 40,000. So you can do the math. That was the last election. This election has even narrower margins for winning or losing. So anything that has less than 3 points is considered to be a swing state. Same with Georgia. Georgia was lost by 12,000 votes.
Right.
And that is, we're talking a few thousand.
How many Armenians do we have in Georgia?
Georgia, I'm not sure how many we have in Georgia.
But more than enough
to make a difference, right?
make
And
a
Michigan, even more. We have about 70,000 Armenians, 60 to 70,000 Armenians in Michigan. So all of these states are going to play a key and pivotal role in the outcome of this election. So it's going to be very important for all of our all the constituents, Armenian-American constituents, to vote in these elections.
Today I was reading that there are over 60 million people already voted, like they cast their ballots.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
It's like unusual. I mean, more than usual, right? In 2020, it was less. And this year, people anticipate more participants. But how is the situation in Nevada? How active are Armenians? How are they registered already? How do you work with them? And what type of insights you can provide us about Armenian-American community in Nevada?
Well, honestly, it's a...
Do you work with them?
I do, yes. Thanks for asking. I mean, I really pride ourselves on having a very unified and solid Armenian-American community in Nevada. I've been there for 22 years and really have seen our community blossom and become a really vibrant community. And in some ways, it feels like a small town within a small town because we are very close. We have 2 churches, and those 2 churches are actually in very important districts in Nevada for the congressional races. Both of the Congresswoman Dina Titus is in St. Garabet's district, and Congresswoman Susie Lee is in St. Giragos's district. So we have voters in both of those districts, which are also close races, and both Titus and Lee are on the Armenian caucus thanks to the work that I've personally done for ANC Nevada and also ANC in general. You know, the more we have supporters on the Armenian caucus, the better off we are because we get those votes on our key legislation. And most recently, I've had the pleasure to work with Congressman Horsford's office, who's also in Nevada. He was the co-chair of the Harris campaign. So, you know, being engaged and really being able to...
Does that mean more Armenians are Democrats in Nevada? Or
I wouldn't say that.
Democrat?
No, I think there's the independent vote. And I think that, you know, this is an opportunity for both campaigns to win over the independent voters that are Armenian-American voters. You know, a lot of Armenian-Americans care about business, they care about the economy, they care about that part of things, but we also care about human rights and equality and all of those things that affect minority populations. So I think that it's fair to say that we have a mix of people and we also have the potential for an independent vote, which could really make an impact in how we vote for the presidential election as well as the congressional races. I also want to say that for the California voters, I mean, a lot of times people say, oh, well, for the presidential race, you know, our vote is not as important because it's a, you know, blue state as far as California. However, the congressional races and the other local races really do matter and will have a significant impact on policies within the state, you know, within the local government, which always will trickle, you know, upwards, and how that affects the quality of life for Armenian Americans, you know, in their county and their state.
Another question regarding the candidates, presidential, and then we'll move forward. There are a few people that had very good Armenian positions, very good position on Armenian issues. Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, I would say Vivek Ramaswamy, he was a Republican, of course. So those people are going to be in the office with Trump if Trump is elected. And they have very, very pro-Armenian positions. Do you think we should work with these people right now instead of waiting like to see what's going on, what's going to happen on 5th? Don't you think like it's time, it's already late? I mean, we had to start working a month ago, yesterday, today, and instead of waiting. What do you think? In case Trump is a winner, don't you think those are very powerful people we can use for our cause?
Absolutely. There is, you named some key people who will probably have positions in his, if he wins, in his cabinet. And I think that the fact that we have history with them is fantastic. Vivek Ramaswamy has said some amazing things on the record for ANCA and really been very supportive of our community throughout his campaign until he stopped. And then also Tulsi Gabbard as well, and also JFK has had a significant interactions with our community. So all of that is a plus. And I would say that whatever side of the campaigns you're on, the key thing is engagement. They have to know what we care about, and they have to know that we're going to vote and that we are engaged. And when we're engaged, they engage us as well. And so it really works both ways. There's no saying that, oh, we're not going to engage. You have to be able, and I'll say as a community, we have to be able to say that no matter who wins, whichever campaign, that we will be on the side that we have built a relationship that we are going to try to win whichever side that we're on. And whether that's through the people that you just mentioned in the Trump campaign and his awareness of our issues now that he's saying something, or whether it's through Harris's, long time, being from California as Attorney General, and her, her work through
she was
as a senator.
California senator, Attorney General.
Right.
But when the Artsakh war started, she didn't mention any time she didn't say anything about Artsakh. She didn't do anything against Azerbaijani aggression, nothing.
Absolutely.
I remember with my people, we went to her office during the war. She was a candidate of the vice president and senator. She didn't make any announcement, zero. So now, and then she was in the office.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we have to look at their track record.
Yes.
Absolutely. And nobody's going to get a pass. I mean, I think that's what the thing is with the Armenian-American voters is that we want to be able, and we should be holding our candidates accountable for their actions when they're not only on the campaign trail, but when they're in office. And that track record is what enables us to be able to make educated decisions and not to be seduced by words.
That's right.
As we said, the words matter because it means that they know what we care about and that we're engaged at that level. I don't believe that's ever happened to the Armenian-American community. That's been a lot of work by the ANCA, by the Armenian-American community being engaged in the political process. It's very encouraging. We just have to keep going and not stop. And it's not enough because we want to be able to change foreign policy, America's foreign policy towards Armenia, which, as we said, is leaning to the West and hopefully, will, provide some security for Armenia and, the fulfillment of the right to return for Artsakh, the release of the leaders of Artsakh and the POWs.
And the last part of my interview questions is about what's going on right now. The election, there are 3-4 days left, and it seems like tempting. Biden made a very, very big announcement calling Trump supporters garbages, and then anyways, so what should we expect in a few days? And also Trump campaign is talking about voter fraud, election fraud. There are states that they found fake IDs or illegal people wanted to register to vote. And there are some legislative concerns raising. For example, in your state, I think Nevada Supreme Court made a decision that the ballots can arrive until 3 days later after elections and without postmarks. What is your take on this? What is your reaction?
The general statement you're making about the election in general have become less civil as a general note. But I think going towards election issues of election integrity and issues of election fraud.
So everyone can trust this was a fair election.
Absolutely. It's a foundations of democracy is to have fair elections and ballots that aren't tampered with, or there are no concerns about that. What I anticipate what happened in 2020 is that there were allegations made about, voter fraud. There was obviously a lot of lawsuits brought about the elections in Georgia, and also some issues with Trump interfering in the campaign, in the presidential campaign, specifically asking for votes in Georgia. I hope that we've learned the lessons from the past, and that there will be election security, integrity, and if the Nevada Supreme Court, in the interest of accessibility, fairness, and issues of being able to count votes has decided that, then that's giving some leeway to the voters. The issues
also for illegals to vote. Or I don't know. It's suspicious. Like we have election started in Nevada, right?
Yes.
Early voting started.
Yes, absolutely.
So
yes.
why cannot they vote now or election day and then they have to come back later? I don't understand that. If it's not for fraud.
Right. Well, I don't know.
Why is California
I think
governor making decision that asking the voter ID is illegal? Why are they making these decisions if they don't want to commit fraud, fraudulent elections?
Well,
I'm just asking. I don't know. I'm
that's
not a professional. I'm not a lawyer. But your opinion is important.
That legitimate concerns. However, the other side of that is, let's not set things up in order to be able to claim voter fraud by setting things up for that to happen, for those opening up those possibilities before anything has actually occurred. So that's the other thing is the last time, unfortunately, the election, the ultimate decision of what the election was and the outcome was delayed. And what happened during that time was it gave Azerbaijan for when we think about it as Armenian Americans, that type of turmoil and issues with the American elections gives one more opportunity in the world to be distracted so Azerbaijan can threaten the security of Armenia. That concerns me. But also, as an Armenian-American, voter and integrity, that the process is fair and that they're counted correctly is absolutely 100% right. But it's also important to be able to, when you've lost, to concede and not to question everything and litigate it if there's no valid claims like last time. So I think there has to be...
So you think there was no enough evidence to claim that it was fraudulent?
Well, the decisions from the
Okay.
court are basically told us what happened, and I think we need to stick with that.
You have to have a right to ask questions.
Absolutely, yes.
Raise questions.
For sure.
Okay, back to Armenians.
We digress there
Yes,
for a minute. But
right.
I do want to talk about Congresswoman Titus's sanctions bill.
Of course,
Whenever,
yeah.
no, but sorry, please, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. No, I wanted to wrap up the conversation, but you go ahead, please.
Yes.
I know there are a few agendas, bills, right, in Congress.
Yes.
And please explain what those bills are and how Armenian-American community can push more power, influence on candidates. We're talking about only presidential candidates, but congressmen also are important. And now is the right time to tell them what they should do.
Absolutely. I think, building relationships with our members of whether it's the president in the presidential elections, congressional or local races is absolutely key. And that ties in with votes, but also being able to advocate for our issues and bring them to the top of their awareness and consciousness. One of the wonderful things that I've been able to do in Nevada, having been there for quite a few years, but really working in the last 10 years closely with Congresswoman Titus, Lee, and now Horsford, but especially with Congresswoman Titus, who was just awarded at our ANCA Western Region Gala, which had a turnout of over 700 people. We were really proud of this year's event. Congresswoman Titus received the Legislator of the Year award for many years of dedicated service to our community, really listening to what our community cares about and knowing that there were certain things that would be very impactful. One of the things she did prior to this was that the Library of Congress used to name the Armenian genocide as a massacre. She changed that to genocide for the proper name that it deserved. She was also very instrumental in 2019 in getting passage for recognition of the Armenian genocide. But most recently, what is the most exciting and impactful thing she's done that's unprecedented is she spearheaded the Azerbaijan Sanctions Review Act, which is really imposing global Magnitsky sanctions against 44 Azerbaijani officials who perpetrated human rights violations against POWs and Artsakh leaders, as well as the bill specifically names the 8 Artsakh leaders who are currently being held, including Ruben Vardanyan, David Babayan, and the 6 others. What's important about that is that now it has 39 co-sponsors. This bill has 39 co-sponsors. It's got some good momentum. And also, it's an important leverage point. It keeps our issues at the level of importance that they deserve, and also that our legislators, like Congresswoman Titus, are listening to our community. So it really highlights the issues. We hope that it gets passed, but it is the first ever sanctions bill. It's powerful. And hopefully we continue in this vein of power. The other important bill we have is to codify the waiver of Section 907, which providing military aid to Azerbaijan. We don't want any presidential candidate to be able to waive that, stopping of giving military aid to Azerbaijan. We want to make sure that's the law, and that's the other major legislation that we have.
I like the part of Dina Titus's speech at ANCA. She's Greek, right?
She is, yes.
That part when she said, we have common enemy and we have to be united. That's right. Especially Armenians have to be more united now than ever. And at the end, I would like you to speak with our community, Armenian-American community, and your suggestion, what they should do right now before November 5th.
I wanted to say to the Armenian-American community across the United States, in California, and also in the Western region, where I'm very delighted to be on the Western Region Board of the ANCA. But just most importantly, as an Armenian-American, our vote counts. Our voice matters. We have now the ear of the candidates in the presidential election, and it is incumbent upon us to be able to make an impact in this election. Your vote is critical. Your vote is important, and especially in swing states like Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and the others, where we have a significant Armenian-American community. It's so important for you to vote because our issues can really have an impact in the elections, and then those candidates that get elected can also be aware of our issues and hopefully implement policies that will give Artsakh some power to be reclaimed or return of our people to Artsakh, and also for the security of our homeland, Armenia. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you for watching us. My guest was ANC Western Region Board member Lenna Hovanessian, who is also ANCA's Nevada co-chair. Thank you, Lenna.
Thank you very much, Arthur. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'll hope to see you after the election.
Of course, 100%.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.